First of all, thank you very much, Helma, for the introduction, and thank you very much. So thank you very much, KIT and the organizers of the FRSM for this invitation, and especially for allowing us to have this workshop that is tomorrow, which we are very excited about, and it's focused on music information technologies, and you're all welcome to attend. And that will focus very much on the topics that are related to what I will be talking now. So it's very nice to be able to have some activities together with FRSM and being able to together do some interesting work. So the talk I'm going to give is going to be a presentation of the project. And the idea is that then further details of the activity will be done tomorrow. But before that, let me just briefly tell about myself and the activities I have been doing for many years. I am from Barcelona, Spain. When I am here in India, if I say I am from Spain, normally not many people know. But if I say that I am from Barcelona, and because of the football team, most people know. So it's easier to say I am from Barcelona than being from Spain. So that's very nice. So I had a research group there at the university. It's a pretty large research group of around 50 people, researchers doing music technology. We are within an engineering department. And we have been doing quite a lot of things. We are sort of at the border of quite a number of disciplines. For example, from engineering, my background is mainly signal processing, but in the last few years, we really have been covering other engineering areas, especially machine learning type topics and topics related with human and computer interaction, with the basic goal of trying to find the methodologies that can help develop music technology. Specifically about the topics that we have been working on, the main one for many years has been audio signal processing, and that's where I did most of my work. More recently, one of the biggest areas in our field and the fastest growing areas is the area that sometimes is called music information retrieval. We call it sound and music description, and this talk will be very much related to that. But we like doing things that are really very much directed with musicians and with composers and people that make music, especially Western music. So we like to work on musical interfaces. We have developed musical instruments. We like to work on performance type issues and understand what is the relationship between the performer, the instrument, the performer, a computer. And more recently, we are very much interested in the idea of communities. Music cannot be understood without the community that surrounds the music. So in order to understand some music, you really need to understand the community. And that's one of the areas that we have been focusing on. So I don't want to tell you much about the kinds of things we have been doing, but this is some of the pictures or some of the things we have done in the area of audio analysis. We have done quite a lot. We developed a singing voice synthesizer called Vocaloid, which is quite well known in Japan, and it's been commercialized by Yamaha. We have developed some musical instruments and some web type of applications that are very successful, like Freesound. We have created a number of technologies that are very much out there. We have created 3 companies, and we have done quite a bit of technology transfer to many companies or institutions. So anyway, but that's not the main topic of my talk. What I want to talk is about this project, and basically it all started 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was invited by Professor Preeti Rao and Dr. Mamurthy for WISA at IIT Mumbai to present our research, to present our work in music technologies and especially music information retrieval. So I talked about the kinds of things that we have been doing. And after a while, I realized that the kinds of things that we have been doing, I have been in this field for more than 30 years, or well, around 30 years. And after having done all that work and having transferred the technology to places and to Japan and to companies, I realized that a lot of this technology was useless in India. That a lot of the things that and the music that India had, the tradition that India had, was not well supported by the technologies that many people have been doing around the world, even Indian people, and of course in China and many places. So after being here, so the issue is I am in information technologies. So are the information technologies that we all, many people in our research field and in the industry have been developing, and the technologies that you nowadays find in places like Amazon or iTunes, or many technologies basically now most people or everyone is using on their mobiles or on different devices, are they really appropriate for the musics of India or the musics of other countries? And immediately you start thinking a little bit about it, and you realize that no, those musics, those are not really well taken care by the technology. That most of this technology has been developed with a Western paradigm, with a Western way of thinking, even, again, I repeat, by companies that are in India or by companies that are in China or in Japan. That a lot of the technological development nowadays, even though we are not aware, has an imprint of a Western type of thinking. Maybe it's difficult to get around this because it's very much ingrained in scientific methodology and the kind of approach we do to problem solving. It has been very much driven by an analytical perspective that maybe has this very Western way of thinking. But I think it's a challenge. I think we have to do better. I think we really have to, if we want to preserve the musics of the world and if we want to do something that has an impact, we have to try to develop new technology. So anyway, so I came back to Spain with the idea that I had to do something about it, and that I felt with the responsibility to try to contribute to that. So I was lucky that right when I came back, 15 days later, there was a deadline for a European program. It's a very large European initiative. It's from the European Research Council, that is basically the dream funding that any researcher would have, because they give a funding to a person and an idea, and they don't ask you for anything else. They don't ask you for deliverables, they don't ask you for consortiums, they don't ask you for anything. So I succeeded in getting the project. It's called CompMusic, and it's funded for 5 years. Started in this past summer. And it's 2.5 million euros that I basically can dedicate to whatever I wish to in this endeavor. So what is CompMusic about? Well, of course, we have been doing already a number of things. You can look at the website and you will get some information about it. But basically, the basic ideas, the main one, from what I said, I guess it was clear. I want to promote a culture-specific approach to music computing. So music computing, and in fact, again, any area, any field is very much tied to a given culture. Everything we do has our cultural imprint. And this is good. I mean, that's how it has to be. The only thing is that we have to be aware of it. And the only problem is that, of course, we should try to get as many cultures involved in developments as possible, so we can support all different cultures. So, so the concept of culture specific has to be really the same technology developed here cannot be the same than used in another country. For example, last time I was here on the plane, I happened to sit next to the person that is developing Amazon in India, and of course I started talking about the project, and he was completely amazed. He had never thought that Amazon India, that what they're doing now, is simply incorporating the content of Indian publishers and Indian CDs on top of exactly the same technology that you have in the US or you have in Europe. And immediately you realize that that's wrong. There is no way you can deploy Amazon in India on top of the same way that you structure the information in the US or in Europe. So anyway, so that's the idea. I come from, of course, information technologies, signal processing. So the main goal in our field is to be able to automatically describe music, to automatically be able to extract information that is meaningful of music. And we are working mainly on audio. And one of the big challenges in our field is how from an audio, from the signal, you can really extract information that is culturally, semantically meaningful. How can you extract information of what raga is being played, or what is the artist, or what is the emotion of a particular piece of music? And so the idea is a current challenge that is quite well agreed by our communities, how to really cross the gap or narrow the gap between these low-level signal representation, these recordings that we have, and all these higher-level descriptions that we like to interact with. If you like to search for a piece of music, you're not going to search for the fundamental frequency. You're going to search for something else. You're going to search for a raga. You're going to search for meaningful concepts that are not these very low-level concepts. And the idea is to work on that from a cultural-specific way. So therefore, to find information modeling technologies for, I chose 5 music traditions of the world, 5 art music traditions of the world, and I will try to explain why. And specifically the 2 Indian art music traditions, Hindustani and Carnatic. The one in Turkey, the main one in Turkey, which is comes mainly from the Ottoman tradition, and we call it Turkish makam. And another that is in the Arab countries, that in fact was started when Spain was an Arab country. The summit of the high point of the Arab culture was in fact during the years, the centuries that the Arabs were in Spain, and that's a very fruitful, culturally relevant musical culture that was developed from that. And in China, the main culture that also goes very back, the art music tradition is part of the Han culture. So here I have some examples about some of the music that we are trying to work on. I guess there is no need to play an example of T.M. Krishna or Carnatic music. We're going to have T.M. Krishna here tomorrow, so it's going to be an opportunity to hear him talk about music or about Hindustani. Let me just play you a little bit of Turkish music from an instrumental group from Istanbul. Do we have the sound? It's here. Yeah. So this is classical music from Turkey, and we have started with these 3 ones, and we still have not started with the Chinese and the Andalusi, but let me just play you a little bit of Chinese hand music. And finally, Andalusia. Can you hear? Can you hear it? It's okay from here, or not so well? Can we try it again? Okay. It should work. So, well, you haven't had time to listen to them carefully, but the first reaction that many people have when they hear some of these different musics is that, oh, this sounds like, this is similar to Hindustani, or this is similar to the, it might be true, but I think it's more interesting to think about the differences than the similarities. And the basic goal of the project is to focus on the differences. What is it really each culture enrich our overall cultural heritage? No? So I think it's interesting to focus on that, and that's the idea of the project. Why these repertoires and why not others? I mean, there are zillions of musics around the world that would be worth to study more than what they have been studying until now. One of the advantages of these repertoires and a few others in the world is that they belong to formalized classical traditions. What does that mean? They mean that they have been at one point sort of standardized. They have been part, in fact, of some empire or some political and economical power that has made an effort to systematize, to educate, to find a way to transmit this culture and to basically standardize it. So that makes it quite easy to work from, because that means that it's quite a clearly defined framework. That's not the case in many types of music. And therefore, they have musicological studies, they have cultural studies. There's a lot of written literature on it that we can study from an engineering point of view. And they're not just theoretical concepts from the past, but they're alive. They have alive performance practices, and they exist in social contexts that maintain them and keep them very much as part of current culture, not things that are frozen in the past. So the idea is that then with that, we might be able to put this type of music in our focus. We might challenge this current Western sort of approach that we are having in music, and I would claim also in most information and other disciplines. So we can challenge these information paradigms and try to find specific engineering approaches that open up our current methodologies. So the team of the project, right now we only are working on these three music traditions, the two Indian ones and the Turkish ones. And so the group in Barcelona, it's headed by me, and there is a few PhD students and researchers. And then there is a group at IIT Madras headed by Dr. Hemamurthy, and a group at IIT Mumbai headed by Dr. Preeti Rao, and finally a group in Istanbul headed by Dr. Baris Bozkurt here. We are going to be giving presentations about our work tomorrow, so you're most welcome to see that. Okay, so the idea of the project, of course, this is a very large idea, and it has to be narrowed down to specific problems and specific issues. So this will be a kind of a diagram of some of the topics that we are working on, but still within that we have to narrow quite a bit. One of the major problems there is to gather information. You go into the net and you find all the CDs published by Sony or all the Western CD companies. You look at the net for Indian records, and many of them are not So there is a need to have information available for research, but also available for any usage about these different musics. And this has not been done because there hasn't been that much research on that. So one of our efforts is to actually make that information available, gather it and making it available in open type of repositories. So for audio, it's always a problem. Audio, because of the copyright issues, makes it very hard to share and to distribute audio. So we have to have our own database of all the audio that we have. While here, I have been buying a lot of CDs, so we have by now a quite good collection of CDs from Indian music, maybe close to 200 CDs that we just gathered, but there will be many more. So we put them there. But there is a whole bunch of initiatives online that allow us to share information about Indian music and about any other music among research and people that may be interested in it. So Music Brains, for example, is a online repository of information of CDs, and so we are trying to put as many information there as possible, because that becomes very valuable for research, but also for everyone. Or Wikipedia. Wikipedia, you look for Indian music concepts, and you might find it. You might find quite a bit. Especially in the English version, not so much on the local languages version. But most, and I would bet, I am just making it up, but I would bet that's the situation, most of the information about Indian music on the Wikipedia have been added from the US. Have been added maybe by Indian people in the US, but that means from a kind of influenced Western perspective. So a lot of the information that you find in Wikipedia has been driven, even though it's open, even though there is no one that really controls it. It has a major Western influence in the way things are written, things are described. So it's very important for us, but also for everyone, to really contribute to that. Because something as innocent as Wikipedia and open can have a big impact into the way we talk, we describe, we refer to things. One thing that I many times say is that what the British did not succeed in this country of several centuries of imposing their culture or changing the culture of India, now will happen with innocent technologies like Wikipedia or Google or things like that, without even us being aware of it. Because we need to adapt to these technologies, we use them, so we are forced to adapt to the way of thinking, of describing, or talking about things that these repositories have. So in a few years, many of the terminologies that we use, for example, this morning there was this talk about layers. It's a very Indian concept. Maybe in a few years will disappear if we use Wikipedia to refer to these concepts. So it's very, very important that we participate in that. And Free Sound is a repository that we have developed for many years that is of sounds and of a community of people sharing sounds that we use very much to share sounds about things, about the specific sound from different places of the world. And that's a very nice repository that we keep adding sounds to for this type of thing. Anyway, so gathering is a very important step for any research project, and that's what we're doing. In terms of musicological validation, that's very important. A lot of research in engineering, and especially music, at least in the West, has been done by engineers without much relationship with the actual musicians that practice and the musicologists that know about the music. So we have developing concepts without really validating them and without really being in contact with what is the reality in music. So it's very important to make sure that the problems we look into, the data we work from is really validated from a musicological point of view. That's why in the workshop tomorrow we have T.M. Krishna and we have Buddhadev Das Gupta from CSRA, sort of experts that we would like to learn from and that should help us identify problems and issues that are really relevant for Hindustani and Carnatic music. And at the level of ontologies, that's a very important thing. And normally, the people that come from signal processing and DALL-E, we don't worry so much about this more computer science. But the concept of ontologies is fundamental nowadays for all these web-based technologies. And this relates with dictionaries, with grammars. We need to have culture-specific dictionaries. We need to have culture-specific terminology. The concept of rhythm, the concept of time, the concept of melody cannot have a single definition. It has to have a culture-specific definition. And that's what we require, and that's what here we are aiming at. In the level of audio, that's maybe the one that we come more and that we will do more work from. Most of the work that has been done until now is very much bottom-up. And there was this talk by Professor Data, and it's very good to do bottom-up where you don't have any information about it. But when you are studying Hindustani music, there is no way you can get away by doing bottom-up research. There is a body of knowledge, there is a community behind it, and you have to use that information to drive your algorithms. So tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about concept of intonation, of rhythm, of melody that we are starting to work on. There is no way you can approach them in the same way in different cultures. It has to be very much culture specific, and that's what we are doing. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the idea of community, that's one of the areas we're very much interested in. As I said, I was the last 2 weeks of December attending this amazing music season in Chennai. I could have listened to the same piece on my iPhone from Barcelona. The experience I would have had would have been of the same piece. It would have been a completely different piece of music. The piece of music I heard sitting in the Music Academy of Chennai and being part of that community had nothing to do with the experience I had before, I could have had, listening to that same piece of music in Barcelona, walking around the streets. The context, the community, the ideas that surround that piece of music. After going to a concert, you go to rasicas.org and you see all these commentaries about that experience. That changes completely your appreciation, your feeling about that music. So there is no way you can study and try to understand a piece of music without understanding the community that embraces and enriches that culture. And now you can do it. Now the engineers, we can attempt to work on these issues. It was impossible before. But nowadays, on all these sort of web semantic technologies, mining technologies that have been developing, we can crawl rasicas.org and learn an immense amount about what the Carnatic music community thinks and feels and talks about music. And we can learn from that to derive a lot of information for our engineering research. So that's a quite new area that before it was just restricted to sociology and psychology and some of the social sciences, and now we engineers can finally try to approach some issues at this more social and community level. That's very interesting. And finally, the research we do, and for me has always been fundamental, we don't want to do research and just publish a paper. We want to do things that have an impact, that can have an impact in society, that has an impact and can be used by people. So we really very much want to develop a system that basically tries to prove the validity of this cultural specificity approach, and that can help these different communities in some way to more appreciate their music or learn from the music. So we have the basic concept, and tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about this, is the concept of a browser specific for music. I started the talk saying that the Amazon and the iTunes are not good. You should not use them to browse English music. we have to find a browsing, a way to search, to recommend, to buy, to enjoy music that has been built, that has been developed, thinking about the specificity of that culture. So that's what we are attempting to do. So the idea is from all this data that we gather automatically or manually or from many sources, the audio recordings, the analysis data, the editorial data, the semantic information from the web, from Wikipedia, etc. Nowadays, and the purpose of the project is to be able to develop kind of a browsing facility that allows you to go into concepts and search through ragas, search through the different aspects of these different cultures. So it's something that it's impossible. You don't have in a general sort of browsing system. So anyway, so that will be the kind of the interface that will be used to show some of the results that we got. Anyway, and I just want to finish basically with the thought that I believe, and the basic hypothesis is of this project is that culture-specific approaches should give a qualitative advancement, not just for our music or the music of India or the music of another culture, but also for other musics. And let me just emphasize this. In Western music, that's what I have been brought up with, that's what I do, that's what I like the most, in fact. But there has been a lot of things in our Western music that we have not paid attention. For example, everyone says that Western music is equal tempered, that we have 12 notes in the scale. That's wrong. I play the cello. I don't play 12 notes. I play many more. But because of the notation, because of the tradition, we believe, and we have learned to believe, that we only play 12 notes. If you do that in this country, it will kill you. So you need to understand Indian music. It's clearly that you need to develop a method to understand the complexity of intonation of pitches in this country. And in turn, we from the West will learn a lot, because we will appreciate certain things that we have been forgetting about, that we have, but we have been forgetting about. And that's the same thing for many concepts. So the idea is that by studying Indian music, we can focus on some aspects of music that might be present in other musics, but that we are not paying attention. And by looking at Indian music, we really can contribute. So Indian music can contribute enormously into the understanding of many other musics, because it makes obvious some of the problems that we are not paying attention to in the West. And finally, the other aspect is that, of course, that we should really, and me as a researcher, I really feel with the responsibility to make sure that our work helps preserve the richness of the music of the world, and that in maybe 50 years from now, we will be partly guilty that to the simplification, the trivialization, or the disappearing or some nuances of musical aspects that these technologies are having in all our music. So anyway, thank you.